Kai's College presents The Science of Happiness. With Ken Kais.
During about the last decade and a half of my life, I've devoted it to formulating a science of happiness. When I did work, undergraduate, graduate work in the area of psychology, I figured that one reason I did it was that I knew something was missing from my life, and I figured the psychologists had the answer. So if I just got me a degree in psychology, I would know how to live a happy life. Well, after a little while, about a year or so, I got rid of that illusion. I found that the psychologists were any happier than I was. They had real good terminology and ways of proceeding, but something was missing there. And this was back in my 20s, and the intervening decades, I kept searching for the human happiness must be lawful. That is, there are laws, principles that regulate it. You follow these procedures, you're happier. You follow those procedures, you're less happy. And I kept searching for them, reading books on it and so forth. I never found answers that seemed to come together for me. And then once what led me into the formulation of the Living Love system was that I began to pick up threads based on humanistic psychology and the course that I had with the Tibetan Lama and listening to Ram Dass's wonderful tapes. I began to pick up threads that began to make sense to me to create a science of happiness. So I took the threads that I could pick up and began to weave them into a tapestry that today we call Living Love. And gradually I found the missing ones, and pretty soon it became for me to be an answer to how to enjoy your life, how to be the master of your experience. I had to give up being the master of the world. I'm going to leave that to you or to God or whoever's running things. I found out I could not control the world enough to be happy. Have you given that one up? But what you can control by inner work and increasing skill in the 244 system and the science of happiness, you can be the master of your inner experience, because that's all within your own control. No matter what the situation is, you can literally be the master of your experience. To take an extreme example, the doctor could say, well, I think you got 1 day to live, that's it, or 3 hours to live. You can be the master of your experience and have a hell of a good time those last 3 hours. Or you can spend it miserable and making everyone around you very miserable and feeling full of unhappiness. Now, you can't make them unhappy, but you can help them trigger their addictive demands, and it's their programming that will make them unhappy. So as I began to put this together, it began to work more and more in my life. I began to teach it to other people, and through that experience I began to notice things that did not work as I would want them to work. And so I delved more deeply into troubleshooting and into evolving the system to where I can say to you today that I believe that with over 99% of the people on the planet, if they can become skillful in the science of happiness, that they can live happy lives, fulfilling lives with good energy, good insight, love, and a real feeling of purpose in their lives. This is the one dynamic thing that whether you're rich or poor or young or old or educated or not educated or tall or short or green skin or blue skin or whatever games you're into, that this science of happiness is a universal one because it's based on human experience of millennia after millennia. Because I don't claim the originality for inventing this stuff. I think I've just simply packaged elements into making what I regard as a very completely effective science of happiness. So let me just very briefly go over the 4 parts of this that's on the blue card. The parts are, of course, as you would guess, body, mind, and spirit, living love, and helping others. Under the body, we have 3 major categories. Nutrition. We feel that in this day and age, with apparently a deteriorating quality of water, deteriorating quality of air that we breathe, polluted increasingly, and deteriorating quality of food, more and more pesticides and whatever, say nothing of radioactivity that's now gotten into the bodies of everyone on Earth. In fact, in 1954, the U.S. Department of Agriculture said that radioactive strontium-90 from the bomb test was now found in the bones of every human being on Earth that had ever been tested. So we definitely are, from a nutrition point of view, I feel that in a way that was not perhaps as necessary in the past, we need to be very mindful of food choices, and lots of good information is available at this point on how to do that. So that's one of the foundations of the science of happiness, good nutrition. The second one is exercise. Research has shown that without a minimum of exercise, that the maximum well-being, and this means psychological and physiological well-being of a human being, is not possible, period. And it's possible to achieve this in as little as 20 minutes a day, 3 times a week. That's 1 hour out of an entire week that can be spent in what's called aerobic exercise. Dr. Kenneth Cooper's work in aerobics that most of you are familiar with is a good text for that. The third is biochemical individuality. This is an interface between a growing edge type thing. We feel that we're among the first people in the nation on this. Not the first. We didn't pioneer it. We've relied on the wonderful medical work of pioneering doctors in this study of biochemical individuality. But we're finding that individuals respond psychologically and physiologically enormously different depending on various foods. What's one man's meat is another man's poison. In a very literal way. There are foods that it is possible for most everyone in this room, if you were to eat certain foods and really be able to, if you eat those alone after having stayed away for about 4 days, so that you're really clear on what is the cause and effect, there are certain foods that one can eat that make you feel really fine and are nutritious, and other foods, a minority fortunately of foods, that will actually change the technique of brain accessing and create negative separating effects in what you access. And it'll make you go after one. It'll take the addictive demands that we normally run and turn them up by a factor of 100. That dramatically with most of us. So these are the 3 areas that we find most needing to be focused on in the area of body in the science of happiness. The second one is mind. How can we use this wonderful biocomputer, this great rational mind that we have? That's the hallmark of the human species. You know, Aristotle defined man as a rational animal. We might argue with that in some ways, but this is no doubt one of the biggest ways we are distinguished from many other forms of life. And in our book, Taming Your Mind, it explains what I regard as the most effective way of using your mind to avoid most of the pitfalls that lead us to make unsound decisions we make in life that we later regret because we certain factors left out of our wonderful thinking processes. So this is the second part of the science of happiness. The third part, the spiritual part, the psychological part, or if you want to just say plain old horse sense part, is living love. The entire 2-4-4 system, which we presented much of during this workshop. Now, here's what happens. when you become skillful at using all three of these parts of the science of happiness, you become very rich inside, experientially rich, contented, happier and happier, more and more loping along in life rather than plowing under problem after problem, deep down, a lot of the time depressed. It's like you're playing life as a game. Our actions, they still have consequences and so forth, but we can deal with life in an enjoyable, surfing through it way, seeing the cosmic humor of it all, the mountaintop perspective. And as we become richer and richer, the ego is removed from its intense preoccupation with my security, my sensations. Am I getting enough? My power, my pride, my prestige, my money, my, and on into the night, throughout our dreams and all our waking hours. We become so rich inside that we are then able to give ourselves to the world, give ourselves to other people. And this means giving of our precious time. I haven't got time. I wish I could, but I don't have time. We find that we're able to be generous with our time. We're able to be generous with money, with possessions, with everything literally. Doesn't mean we go out and give it all away, but that we have a balance. And the greatest pleasures of our life increasingly are to meaningfully be in the world, knowing specifically that our life makes a difference. And I'm not necessarily saying it has to make some great difference like winning the Nobel Prize. That's one level of the soap opera. But a person can live a very simple life and just help their next door neighbor and help their children when they need it. And just by living an ordinary, so-called ordinary life, which is very extraordinary, because all lives are extraordinary, and you can live a very meaningful, very helpful, very rich life. So reaching out and using this increasing surplus of energy, which is no longer preoccupied by self, but by giving your energy to others, you reach the fulfillment in the science of happiness. We don't suggest helping others, being of social service to the world and to other people. We don't say that to be a good guy or something like that. We say that because we need it selfishly to live the most enjoyable life for ourselves. And the mechanism there is that if your life is preoccupied with self, it's going to be a roller coaster between pleasure and pain. Constantly clinging to whatever satisfies your addictions, constantly wringing your hands and playing victim when your addictions are not satisfied. A roller coaster, up and down, pleasure and pain, happy and unhappy, which is the common procedure that's created by 99% of the human beings on earth today. And we can escape this wheel of fate, so to speak, as we use this 2-4-4 system, building our body, mind, and loving spirit, and then taking this wonderful energy that we're given each morning and put it into helping other people. And we have 3 categories there: helping individuals, nurturing the planet. We're wasting its resources, some of which seem irreplaceable, as though this was the last century that human beings would be living on Earth. And also, we all know about the threat to human survival due to the nuclear bomb. It seems very fascinating and cosmically ironic that the rational mind, the fruit of the tree of knowledge, to use the Genesis story, the rational mind has, in its search for power, become so powerful that we are now capable, in a self-defeating way, of wiping out all humanity on this planet. What an amazing thing, a brand new thing for our generation to cope with, and we certainly hope manage to solve. So this is just a thumbnail sketch very rapidly of the science of happiness. We strongly recommend that you consider beginning down this beautiful journey of inner growth that is outlined by the science of happiness.